Chemical bonding. Chemical bonding explains how atoms combine together and form a chemical reaction that results in new products. An atom is composed of a nucleus with protons and neutrons. The electrons revolve around the atom in certain orbits. Chemical bonding takes place among the electrons in the outermost orbit. The electrons present in the outermost orbit are called the valence electrons. Lewis theory of chemical bonding. According to Lewis theory, most of the atoms try to achieve a stable configuration with 8 electrons in their outermost shell. This is possible by giving or receiving their electrons. The number of dots denotes Lewis symbols, which represents the number of valence electrons in an element. Generally, the valency of an element is equal to the number of dots for each element, or 8 minus the number of dots. For example, the compound NaCl is formed from elements sodium, Na, and chlorine, Cl. Sodium will achieve stable configuration by losing a valence electron, and chlorine will achieve a stable configuration by gaining an electron. Types of chemical bonds. There are 4 types of chemical bonding based on their strength and properties. They are 1. Ionic bonds, 2. Covalent bonds, 3. Hydrogen bonds, 4. Polar bonds. Ionic bonds. In ionic bonds, one atom gains electrons and the other atom loses them. The atom that loses an electron is negatively charged and is called an anion. The atom that gains an electron is positively charged and referred to as cation. The greater the disparity in charge, greater is the bond. Ionic bonds can be easily broken by water, as the polarity of the water molecules can shield the anions from attracting cations. Covalent bonds. Covalent bonding is the process of sharing electrons between 2 atoms. This type of bonding usually takes place between nonmetals, such as compounds that contain carbon. There is equal attraction between the 2 atoms and they are harder to break. There are 3 types of covalent bonds, that is single, double and triple bonds. A single bond is composed of 2 bonded electrons. A double bond has 4 electrons and triple bond has 6 electrons. The greater the bond strength, the shorter the bond length. Polar bonds. Polar covalent bonding occurs when 2 atoms share electrons unequally. Here the atom that is more negative will attract and have a strong pulling force on the electrons. Water and hydrogen fluoride is an example of polar bonding. There are polar and nonpolar covalent bonds. Nonpolar bonding is a bond between identical atoms. Oxygen gas, O2, is an example of nonpolar covalent bond. One way of determining the polar and nonpolar values is by calculating the difference in electronegative values. If the difference is between 0.0 to 0.3, then the molecule has nonpolar bond. If the difference is between 0.3 to 1.7, then the molecule has a polar bond. If the difference is 1.7 or more, then the molecule has an ionic bond. Hydrogen bonding. Many properties of water are due to the result of the hydrogen bonding. It is the weakest of all bonding types. It is a type of covalent bonding between hydrogen and oxygen where the hydrogen develops a partially positive charge.